Now for more reaction to the story, we welcome Jeremy Saltan to the studio, political strategist and advisor to the New Right Party. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here. Benjamin Netanyahu is saying it's a fateful moment for the country, concerned about security and democracy, feeling that the Joint Arab List, as a supporter of a minority government, is actually a supporter of terror. Your reaction?
I think it's very unlikely that we're going to see a situation in which Lieberman and the Joint Arab List are going to be voting for the same government. We know that we're 3 days before the end of the mandate, before Gantz needs to give it back. Of course, this is the time where people are going to feel a little nervous. They're going to go ahead and be a little bit more blunt with their own arguments and talking points. And so that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing that from Gantz. We're seeing that from Lieberman. We're seeing that, of course, from the Prime Minister. Now, of course, the Prime Minister is taking it a little bit too far, but we've seen him do that in the past. I don't think we have to go ahead and say that any government that is formed by anyone in Israel is something that's going to cause people to dance in the streets of Tehran. If anything, what Iran wants to do is obliterate Israel, no matter whatever government we have. But, of course, this idea that there will be a government that is voted in with 3 IDF chief of staffs by the Joint Arab List, who, of course, came out against the Operation Black Belt, which we had just a few days ago, is quite ludicrous. I don't think that's actually a gun that has any bullets. That's an unloaded gun, if you're asking me.
To that exact point, how would you imagine right-wing parties are likely to respond to what the interim Prime Minister is saying, given the meetings that are underway today, more meetings expected tomorrow? How is this likely to affect the right-wing bloc, if at all?
So I don't think this is really going to change anything. The right-wing bloc, which was formed just a few days after the elections in September, has had 55 MKs pretty solidly from the beginning until where we are now. I do not expect a break in the last 3 days. If anything, there might be a break on the other side. But in terms of what we saw, at least from the statements coming out from the meeting of the leaders of the right-wing bloc today and the anticipated attendance of 55 MKs tomorrow at a joint faction meeting of all of the right-wing parties, it does not seem like there are any breaks in that group.
We also know that earlier in the day, Avigdor Lieberman, the kingmaker, met with Benjamin Netanyahu afterwards. And of course, they are strong political rivals now, although before they had been close, a very volatile situation between the two of them. Were you surprised to hear them talking about a good and business-like meeting?
I was not surprised. The part that did surprise me is that they said that they're going to meet again and soon.
Sure.
That's the part that was surprising. But when it comes to Netanyahu and Lieberman, I don't think anyone can ever be surprised anymore. It's one of these, stories about this couple that has been together, has broke up, has got together, has broken up. Over the last 20 years, it might have happened already 30 times. I would not be surprised if we do see a situation where Lieberman and Netanyahu are able to see themselves in the same government, whether that is a unity government, whether that's Lieberman returning to the right-wing bloc. That is something that I can tell you that there are members of the right-wing bloc that have been working on that scenario. I would not be surprised when it comes to Avigdor Lieberman, when it comes to practically anything.
I want to know your opinion as a political strategist, because the deadline is looming for Benny Gantz. He has until Wednesday night to make a plan, so to speak. If he doesn't, do you think the country is headed for that dreaded third election? How do you see things unfolding?
I mean, if I'm Benny Gantz, the first thing I do is, I get what he calls the cockpit of his other 3 leaders, and I just convince them to allow me to come down from the ladder that I put myself on. Gantz has put himself with 3 no's. No to Bibi, but yes to Likud. Yes to a broad coalition, but no to the right-winger Haredi parties. I don't know if people are aware of this. There have been left-wing governments without ultra-Orthodox parties, but there's never been a left-wing government established and voted on in its first confidence vote without the support of the ultra-Orthodox parties. Of course, the third thing is that he says he doesn't want to have any settlers. So again, if I'm Benny Gantz, I convince the other people within blue and white to allow me to come down from that ladder and make a deal with Netanyahu. What I think is going to happen, though, is that he's not going to do that. I think the 3 days are going to run out. We're going to end up in the 21 days. And I do think during those 21 days, we will have someone who will get the signatures needed to get another mandate, and that's the third and final mandate, which we all hope is actually going to be the one that wins.
We're going to be watching all those developments very closely. Jeremy Saltan, political strategist, advisor to the New Right Party. We appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.